stepped out, onto the moon, what do you see? What do you see out there? What's the first thing from, to have an artist describe it? What is it that you see when you take that first step?
Well, first of all, you back out of the door. So you sort of back into this new environment. You're inside the Lunar Module. It looks bright outside, but you're fairly dim inside, even though the windows are up. So you back out carefully, and you close the hatch, and then you come down the ladder. And then when you turn around, there's this incredible brightness around you. It's like coming out of the house at night onto a patio that's brightly lit. I mean, it's super brightly lit. And maybe coming out of the dark of a stadium into the area where it's completely illuminated so brightly. And so you're looking around and you're saying, my God, look at this. This looks so different than when I was inside. It looks more scary. I mean, inside, you're looking out these little windows thinking, there's the moon out there. But when you get out there, you're saying, my God, look at this place. It's not like any place on Earth. And boy, I hope my suit doesn't leak, because if it does, I'm dead. Look at those rocks, and look, there's Pete over there jumping up and down. That looks like fun. And then you let go of the ladder to start to move, and you start to wobble around, and you think, I'm going to fall down, and I don't want to. I might cut my suit. So you grab onto a hold, and you say, what I said in my head about that time was, I've got to quit messing around here, and I've got to quickly learn to stand up and move around. So I'd let go, and I'd practice standing there. And pretty soon, after maybe 10 seconds, I'd start to wobble around just like a baby does when they're learning to stand. And then if I hadn't grabbed onto the ladder, well, I'd have fallen over. But I grabbed on. See, that's why Neil, when he first came down, didn't just jump off and run around. I wondered that. Why didn't Neil just jump off? But he stands there and he says, well, I'm on at the end of the ladder now, and I'm looking around. I'm thinking, why didn't he do something,
Right.
Here I am in training to go, and I don't even recognize this fundamental problem of balance. And he talks about it, and then he says, I think I'll just put one foot off here for a minute. See, he was trying to get his balance and everything else. But we adapt pretty quick. Now, he didn't just jump off and make a step. He held on, like the painting in the book shows, and he put his foot down and then lifted his foot up. It was so that he didn't fall over when he was doing it. You have to get your balance. And that takes 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 minutes, and then you can move around, but you have to be careful. And if you've looked at the TV of Apollo 11, like we all have over the years on Discovery Channel or something, you'll see they're bouncing around continually, at first particularly. It's easier to stand up when you're bouncing around. That's why fighters bounce around a lot, because you naturally move over your center of gravity. If you try to stand still in a spot, it's much more difficult than just kind of moving around a little bit and not paying much attention, because naturally you'll move in the direction you're leaning, and that'll keep you from leaning further. So it's a funny little thing I never had thought about until I got to the moon.
Well, if you fall, you could could you puncture that thing?
Well, we worried about it. We worried that you could. You got a cover layer over it. We said, well, those rocks are sharp. But what we had, it's funny, you know things, and yet you don't know them until they really happen. And what happens is, if you fall down, I fell down a couple of times on the moon, most people did, because there's dust layers there, and then under the dust are rocks. And so it's like you're running through snow, and there's rocks under the snow that you don't see, so you trip every once in a while. But with the light gravity, that makes you light, things fall much more slowly. So when you trip, you start to fall down more slowly. And what you can do, sometimes you can run under your body and catch yourself. That where on Earth you would have really fallen down. So nothing happens real fast like on Earth. And then if you do see you're falling, you can turn around and you can carefully put your hands out, and you don't weigh much. You can catch yourself and not let yourself go down. You can catch yourself and not really bend your arms hardly at all, so that your visor never touches the dirt. And then to get up, all you really got to do is give it a little push with your hands, and you'll just stand right back up again. Now, the first time I tried to stand, I gave a push with my hands, and I nearly went over backwards. I pushed so hard. But because it happened slowly, I started backing up, and then I wasn't backing up fast enough, so I just kind of, on Earth, I'd have just gone plump on my back. it was slow enough so that I could turn around and run that direction and keep from falling over. So it's just a different world, and it's nice, and that's part of the learning. Someday, when they have the Olympics up there in a big dome, it'll be fun, because there are going to be all sorts of wonderful... It's going to be fun to watch the high jump, because they're going to high jump 15 feet or something, and they're going to go up very slow, and they're going to keep going up and up, almost like football, and then they're going to come down very slow. So, you know how pole vaulters now have to have those big pads they land in?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, no telling what pole vaulting will be like that up there. But you won't have to have that. You can have some little pad, because by the time you get down to the moon, you're not falling all that fast anyway. It would hurt like heck in a pole vaulter if you drop from that height onto like a gymnastics pad of an inch or two. It won't bother them a bit on the moon. But other things you can't do. You can't sprint very fast. It'll be all different. Then they'll have some century after that, they'll have the Olympics on Mars. They'll have to have different records, but it'll be fun. All of this will be some of the fun things that lay in the future for human beings to do. They'll watch it on TV and they'll say, wow, that's so different. Look how far they threw the disc, because that guy almost threw it off the planet or something. Hell, maybe you could. I don't know. But it's all going to be fun.
That must have been, a Moon Olympics sounds like a lot of fun. I think that, did you have the temptation just to jump as high as you could?
We did that, but don't forget we were in these bulky suits. And so even though you could jump and go up a long ways, and it was so slowly that you went up and were pulled back, what I found was the problem was not jumping up high, was the fact when you jumped, the minute you jumped off the ground, you never pushed through your center of gravity really perfectly. Now on Earth you jump up and you land right down again, so it's no problem. But here you do, you're going up, and then all of a sudden you see that you didn't push through your center of gravity, and so you see that you're starting to lean to the left. This was true when I was running, and I'd see, I'm leaning to the left, and you just keep slowly turning to the left, and you're still going up, and you're thinking, I gotta get down fast, because maybe by the time I get down, I'll be already over on my side, and that, I'd fall down on my side. And so you're wishing you could come down faster, but of course you can't. And you come down slowly, and you're tipping and tipping. And when I would run sometimes or jump, I would be wishing just like that, and then I would stick my leg out, maybe to the side, as far as I could, and running. Maybe I wouldn't perfectly be able to balance myself, but I'd be able to push off a little bit, and then maybe make a little correction so I wasn't rotating so much, or rotated back the other way. When I was running, I always felt like I was over-rotating forwards, back, left or right, and each time I landed, I would think, God, I've got to hurry up and land, I'll never make it. Then when I would touch down, I would push off and try to make a correction the other direction. Then I would overcorrect. And so it was like I was reeling across the moon. It was fun, and I never did fall down running like that, except when I tripped on a rock. But it was so different than on Earth. You never feel like that if you're running, and you'd fall over, but it was a constant balancing act almost. And you had to concentrate. You had to look where your foot was going to land every time. You couldn't run and look ahead. You'd come and go into a crater. You had to look around. You had to make sure you didn't step on rocks and twist your ankle. You couldn't step in that little crater there. Then you'd push off and you'd look up ahead and you'd say, oh my God, I'm getting ready to come down on that rock. You'd have to move your foot a little bit more to the right than you wanted to. But see, you weigh so little that it didn't hurt. If you did this on Earth, you'd pull your hamstring or something, like football players do when they step in the wrong place. But you would unbalance you. You'd push off, and then you'd say, uh-oh, I better not push too hard because I know I'm going to be, it was a constant, it was fun but strange. It would be fun to do it in a bubble without the suit on, because you'd push up real high, and you'd fall over from time to time, but it wouldn't make any difference. It's going to be fun. It's going to be fun in the future up there. People are going to, that's why one of the things they're going to want to go to the moon for Disney Worlds is because they're going to be able to do all these things on the street, go into their hotel that they'd never do on Earth. They could do, I was a gymnast in college, not very good. I could barely do a round-off flip-flop, backflip. That's about it, couldn't do it very well. Up there on the moon, because if you miss them, you get hurt. You know that. On the moon, when you weigh so little, people will be able to do round-off, flip-flop, 10 back, they mess it up, it isn't even going to hurt. It's going to be fun. I'd love to go do it now in a big bubble and try all that gymnastic stuff I couldn't do. Even at age 66, I could do 5 times more than I could ever do in my prime as a college gymnast up there. It's going to be fun.
Well, you mentioned visually. You said a little earlier that visually it's like nothing on Earth. But, is there any point of comparison, like maybe, the Mojave or Arizona or some arid corner or cratered area of the Southwest? Is there some place on Earth that is, it's in one of your 8 hours up there, whatever, 7.75 hours up there, was there one moment where you turned to the left or the right and said, this looks like Yuma, or this looks like the Mojave, or this looks like Idaho, or, is there any point of intersection with the Earth in terms of just the visuals, in terms of how that place looks?
Well, now, first of all, we thought from studying from Apollo 11 and all that they looked like volcanic fields that we had been on and practiced on in Hawaii and Oregon and Iceland and Mexico and some in the Southwest, where they had these areas of volcanic rock, and that's really what it looked like. So whenever I'd look at the dirt, I would say, well, it looks like those volcanic fields, except there's a lot more dirt around. The dirt on Earth, the rain washes most of it away, particularly the fine stuff, or the wind blows it away. And so usually those volcanic fields tend to look, more rocks are exposed. Up there, of course, more rocks are around, but all the little chips that have been knocked off the rocks are still there and haven't gone out in the stream somewhere. So they're all around. So I would say, I said initially, well, it looked like sort of like volcanic fields in those places I named. However, it never looked like any place on Earth because of the intense sun, because the sky is a shiny patent leather black instead of a nice blue, and because nothing moves up there. There's no moving, there's no plant, there's no clouds to move. The only things that moved when we were there were the two of us and our shadows that moved across the ground. Nothing else moves. And so we've never been to places like that on Earth. Even in the desert, you can look up and see maybe a wisp of a cloud go by, or you look over there and there's a snake, or the wind blows those little pieces of sand over there, or that twig is there and it's being blown a little bit by the wind. None of that. It's so still, so dead. I never for 1 second ever felt like this could be a place on Earth, even though parts of it look like other places we've been. Never. It's not. It's an unearthly place, out of this world place.
Then you turn around and you look at the Earth, and it's, I've seen pictures where it's like this blue water mass.
Yes. You're on this planet that's black and white, and you look up, and the whole universe is black and white, except for the Earth, from where we were. And there, right in the middle of all this blackness, is this beautiful blue and white marble. And it changes. You look at the Earth, and then you do some work, and you look at an Earth an hour later, it's moved 15 degrees, so some clouds have moved to the right. The part that was in the shadow, 15 degrees has come out. Things are going on up on the Earth, and if you look at it over a month's period, it goes like the moon does from Earth. It goes from complete full down to new, where it's in the dark, and then finally completely full again. So things are going on in that beautiful blue and white planet. We've wanted to go to the moon since people crawled out of the cage. But if we'd have been born on the moon instead, let's say human beings, and then the Earth was out there, we would have much more wanted to go, because we'd have said, look at that place there. That's like a jewel. We got a nice place to live here, but God, it's all black and dark gray. And look up there. That's where we want to go. My theory is that the Bible has it partly right. We live in the Garden of Eden. Only we weren't thrown out like it says in the Bible. The Bible tends to make you try to feel guilty of everything all the time when we're not. We didn't do anything most beautiful place in the universe that we know of, period. There's no place that satellites or anything, whatever we call them, that go out into space, I can't think of the word right now, have ever photographed that we think is more beautiful than the Earth. Think about the moon. I'd already described it. Think about Mars. Red rocks, red dirt, red sky, nothing's going on. I mean, how's that compare with what we got? Mercury is just like the moon, only hotter. Venus is cloud covered, but underneath is just like the moon, only hotter. These outer planets, they got soft surfaces. We're the only thing in this solar system that has any beauty that you could even grow a plant on. So
how does that make you feel? There you are.
That makes me feel blessed. I feel.
Yeah, but
look.
But when you're on there, when you're on the moon, you're looking down there. Isn't it like, like there's a big party going on in the universe, but you're like, you may not get back there. I mean.
Well, that's true too. No, there's not a big party going on in the universe. There's only a big party going on that blue and white planet out there. Everywhere else in the universe, as far as we know, nothing's going on.
Right.
Now, probably is somewhere we know. There's probably other people out there somewhere we don't know. I don't think we've ever had them around because they never showed it. You never did anything. If we went, it takes so many years to get here from other stars that they wouldn't just grab some fisherman and autopsy him or something. It's the dumbest thing in Ireland. You'd have to go. You'd want to meet these Earthlings, and you'd want to see what they know. And then since you got here and they can't get there, you'd know more. You'd know how to cure cancer. You'd know how to make people live a long time. You'd know how to help these babies in hospitals. I mean, no matter how. It's my experience that the more advanced the society gets, the more altruistic it gets, and the more it wants to help other people, the smarter the people get, because that's the smart way to live your life. And I think that would be true for people that came here. And if they came, they would say, I'll bet we know we used to be like this 1,000 years ago. And I can remember they had spinal bifida 1,000 years ago. We know how to cure that. Let's land. And we're not going to steal some fisherman and autopsy him. Let's land.
Right.
And let's call the people together, and then we're gonna give them this little medicine they take, and they won't catch cancer, and they won't get that, and it'll all that we're gonna learn in the next 1,000 years, because that's going to take about the time before we start going to stars, or maybe it's 500, I don't know what it is, but some number. Wouldn't we do that? Wouldn't we land and help people? Wouldn't we say these people are suffering down there because they catch AIDS? Well, we had that sort of thing. Let's land and show them how to cure it right quick. We could cure it in 10 minutes with this little object here. And when they have to have an operation, we'll let them use this stuff here, where you can do the operation quick, painlessly, but it doesn't. They heal real quick or something. I mean, all that's going to come, and they would know how if they could get here. But do you see any of that around? No. That's why I don't think they've ever visited. And it made me feel, looking up there, that we are the best thing that we know of. All of us have been given a great gift to be a human being. We're the only things in the universe that can go out to the moon. There's nothing else that can go there. I mean, animals can't go. Even the sun can't go to the moon. It's huge, but it's forever in its orbit. None of the planets, everything that we see in the universe, none of it can do what we can do. We're puny. We're just little old, we're 6-foot high things, and if we get hit by a car, we get all mushed up. But still, we're the only things in the universe that I know of that can find a way to build a spaceship and go somewhere else. I mean, nothing can do that. That's what I think. And people don't realize how special we are. They've been given this gift.
Well, Mr. Bean, how does it feel when you get back? I mean, like right after you got back, is there this feeling of disorientation that?
No. You're glad to be back. You're happy to be here now.
But you must view things differently afterwards. I mean, I would.
Well, maybe you would, and that's what's nice about human beings. We're all different. For example, when Buzz Aldrin got back, he had a feeling that he'd accomplished everything, and there was nothing else worth doing, and so he had some difficulty in his life.
Right, he did. Because
he had this feeling. I mean, it wasn't his fault he had this feeling. He had this feeling. I didn't have that feeling. Pete, Dick, and I didn't have the feeling. I had the feeling that I wanted to be a commander of a space mission, and Skylab was coming, and I wanted to be the commander of a Skylab mission, and so I hit the ground running. I was ready to stop thinking about the moon and start thinking about Skylab, which is pretty much what I did. And
59 days.
Yeah, I loved it. It was great. It was wonderful. I was blessed to be. I'm a guy that's won the lottery twice in a row. That's the way I feel it. I've won the Powerball sweepstakes 2 weeks in a row, and it's better than that, by the way. But some other people felt the presence of God on the moon. Jim Irwin was one,
right.
And then he came home, and it caused him to leave NASA and form High Flight and share his beliefs and feelings with other people. Some others didn't feel that at all, and that's why you send a bunch of different people. That's what's so good about John Glenn going back into space.
This is happening, and he wrote the foreword, of course, and all that. And I think that this is. Now, what about Glenn going up the first time? Just to flash back a little bit, what did that mean to you as in the 1962 when it occurred? What kind of meaning did that have to you at the time? How'd you feel about it? Was it an inspiring moment for you? Did it charge you up to really want to do this career as a pioneer in space? How did it make you feel the first time? And what do you think about the return trip that he's going to take?
Well, first of all, people were watching TV. He was getting ready to launch and all that stuff, and he'd been getting ready to launch for days. They'd been canceling the flight. So I had a flight. It was a work day, and so I was at service test. So I went out and got in my airplane and went out and flew around. It was about launch time. I didn't worry about it that much. I had my own. I thought I was living the perfect life. I didn't envy any person. I went out and got in my airplane. I went out for an hour-and-a-half flight. Came back, and I went up in the ready room, and people are still huddling around the TV, and I walk in there, and I said, "What's going on?" Well, John Glenn finally launched, and everything was go, and they said, "Godspeed, God." They were telling me this, they were all excited. I said, "What he's doing? What is he doing now?" And they said, "Well, since you left, he's gone once around the Earth, and he's on his second orbit." And I thought, gee whiz, I just was gone for an hour and a half, and I probably flew 600 miles, maybe 450 miles an hour, and I thought I was hot stuff. And this guy is the same length of time he's gone up. He's going 18,000 miles an hour. He's gone 25,000 miles around the Earth, while I've gone 600-700 miles, whatever it was. And I said, I must be in the wrong profession. Why didn't they ask me to do that? I hadn't even thought about him. I didn't even know what astronauts did. I certainly couldn't spell it. So I watched the rest of it, and I thought, he's a Marine. Well, I know Marines. Why didn't they ask me? And then I began to look into it. Found out he had been a Marine aviator, and that Al Shepard had been a test pilot at Patuxent River 5 years before me, and so had Scott Carpenter. I said, well, if they ever ask for other astronauts, I'm going to volunteer. I'd like to do this. It would be fun. So it inspired me from that point of view that he looked like he was doing something so much more fun and interesting and amazing than I was doing, even though I thought to that moment I was doing the most fun, amazing, interesting thing you could do. So it changed my focus from, continuing to be a pilot, I still like that, to saying, well, someday I'd like to be an astronaut and do those sorts of things too. And so I began to study and learn and apply and want to do that. Not all my service test buddies wanted to do it. I thought they all would want to do it. When you want to do something, you think everybody else wants to.
Right.
And so when we got ready to apply, I don't think of all the people there, only one or two applied, and I thought everybody would. I certainly wanted to. But anyway, that's kind of the inspiration that I got from it, was just seeing that, my God, look, it's a whole new world up there. It's different than, and him going now, it's different now, I think. What we found out about John Glenn was that he can communicate with people. He sees things in ways that people relate to, me and everybody else, old and young, and rich and poor. They somehow relate to things he talks about, and he seems to be able to say things that are meaningful to everybody, and more than other people, and that's why I think it's so great that he's going. I think this is one of the neatest things that NASA has ever done, because I believe that when he comes back, and some of his observations on orbit and some of his observations when he comes back and the things he says, that the majority of people, not the majority, I shouldn't say that, I should say many people on Earth that don't see that space flight has anything to do with them or their kids or their children's children or anything like that are going to change their mind. He's going to say things, and they're going to look at him, and he's an old man, he's older than I am, and they're going to say, you know, that guy did really well on orbit, and he rode that spaceship into orbit, and he's telling us that someday there'll be spaceships to the moon. Well, maybe he's right. I mean, I've heard that story before, and I've read it in science fiction, but I never really believed it. But looking at this old guy and had him tell me that, maybe I ought to think that, maybe space isn't just the place where young men and women in the prime of life could go. This is a place that someday children and babies and old men and women and young men and women and everybody will go. Maybe it is true that someday that people will live on the moon and that we'll fly there. Maybe it's true that it was very dangerous for the Columbus to go over to the New World on the Nina Pina and Santa Maria. It was dangerous and a long, difficult trip, and now it's not so dangerous. Everybody does it all the time in business and for pleasure, and maybe it's kind of dangerous to go do that now. But maybe in the future it won't be that way anymore. I think it'll change the attitudes of many, many people in ways that it couldn't be changed except by somebody really actually doing it that's old and that it looks like them. It doesn't look like most of the other astronaut crew members. Excuse me, you were going to ask.
No. That's the point is very well taken. I'm wondering whether you want to, join this.
Well, I'm jealous. It looks like he's having a lot of fun and going to have a lot of fun. But I'm trying to paint all these paintings that I know about from my moon experience before I'm gone, and so I can't go do that. I've got to work on the paintings and try to get them done. I've had enough. I've been given 2 flights. Don't forget, he only had 1 flight of 3 revolutions, and I spent a total of 59 plus 10 days, 69 days in space. I've got enough experiences to do this job, and they need to send other people. You know who I'd like to see him send next? Tom Hanks.
Yeah, I thought of that. I was watching this thing, the segment on YouTube, by the way, that I really want to ask you about, and that is that's very good actually, because I wonder, that would be he'd be the perfect candidate. Having done this, I'm sure you've seen from the Earth to the Moon and the segment on number 12. And,
well, certainly, and I've loved it, and I saw him on Apollo 13, and he's been over to my house, and I've talked with him at length, and he's crazy about space. I mean, he's not just some guy that says, I'm crazy about space. He claims to have seen 2001 15 times or something like that. And he even calls, his office is called Clavius Base. I got a letter from him, and it says Clavius Base. I say, what's Clavius Base? I don't know what it is. So I say, what's Clavius Base, Tom? And he says, that's the place on the moon, that base where they found the monolith. Now he named, this was long before Apollo 13. This was when he was back doing Before Sleepless in Seattle and all that stuff. Do you see? He's a sincere, genuine person. Well, look what he's done for the space program. They ought to give that guy a big space medal. He's done more for the space program than I have. But the guy, that's who you need to send up. My belief is that every other shuttle mission, they ought to take somebody and send them up that is just from another walk of life and let them experience what it is and come back and tell us or not. Send up, have damn well pleases. If he wants to write an article that says NASA's disorganized, I guess he does. Or whatever he wants to say. And then 2 flights later, we send up someone that's a dancer, or someone that's a lawyer, or a doc. We send a lot of doctors up. And who cares? Try to figure out all these different people and send them into space, and just let them come back and tell us, what do they think? Now, all people won't be able to come back and tell us anything interesting, but if we have the group that's the group of dancers pick one, or 1 or 2 or 3, so we can pick of the 3 which one probably could do the space flight the best, They would pick someone that they know could tell their community and share with their community and make observations that would be from their point of view. Many of the great discoveries on Earth have come from people in other fields. The discovery of the telegraph was done by an artist. The guy wasn't an engineer, he was an artist. And what was the guy that studied, that discovered the steamboat? Steam engine? He was something else too. All these people, we need to send up a director of a movie, send up of those that want to go, pick one. Every other flight ought to have somebody on there that isn't a professional crewman, that really isn't doing something technical. We're constantly doing something technical in space. Let's quit doing so much technical and do at least 5% non-technical. We don't have to do everything, every flight, some medical experiment or something else. Can't we just send up a congressman? Why can't we? Can't we find out if President Clinton wants to go, or the next president? Why can't we send him up? Why can't we do it? Well, sure. Why do we have to always be so damn technical? I don't know. I used to be a technical person, but now that I'm not, I can see that there's a lot to be gained. Or even if there isn't something to be gained, we don't have to gain 100% on every mission. Who cares?
Well, I'll tell you, the idea of an actor is, or
he's the perfect one.
That is a really good idea, by the way. But
put it in the article.
I absolutely will. And I'm just wondering, you must be a movie buff. Have you seen, The Right Stuff in 2001?
Yeah.
What movie best captures, in your view, fiction movie, best captures, the space experience?
Apollo 13, easily.
Okay.
Apollo 13 was, in my opinion, as good a movie as could be made about space flight as I knew it. It showed the stresses involved. It showed what you go through leading up to it and when you get back. And, of course, it did demonstrate to me, too, and I knew it already, how incredibly competent and professional and brave that crew was. When I watched that movie and relived it with them, I kept saying, could I have done this? Could I have been as cool as those guys? Could I have been as brave as they are? Could I have done the things they did and had to do perfectly the first try as well as they could? I don't think so. I think they did the best flying in all of Apollo. Nobody, thank God nobody had to do it. They had to do the very best flying in Apollo to get back, and they did it. There's no comparison between what they did and what we did on Apollo 12.
Yeah, you had that lightning strike.
Well, we had that. That was a nice little thing, and we had the ground's help as 13 did, but we solved that problem before we even got in orbit, okay? They had this problem for days. They were for days trying to figure out something new, and the most difficult thing in space flight is when you have to do something that's not what you normally do. All those burns they'd practice, we practiced them too, but you practice them 2 or 3 times and you don't do them very well, and then all of a sudden you got to do them well for your life depends on it. That's tough. That is different. It just reminded me how great they were. I was in awe, still am. It was a great movie, and I'll tell you, I was just, when I watched it, I thought, that's really what you're in this little space up there, and your life depends on doing certain things. And our life depends on doing certain things, but they were the things that we practiced most, see? They had to do these certain things that they hadn't practiced much. That's tough.
How about The Right Stuff?
It was good, too. Now, The Right Stuff was a movie that accentuated or blew out of proportion almost everything. The entry was more fiery than you might think, and LBJ was more buffoonish than he really was, and everybody was an exaggerated character. Now, what I felt about it being an artist was, at the time, it was very exaggerated. But after you've been gone from the movie a while, the part you remember is probably you remember it about like it really was. So that's a thing that you do in art, too. You exaggerate something because you know that people will forget after they get away from it, and then after they forget it and it kind of moderates a little bit in their own mind, that what's left is about right. So I like The Right Stuff a lot, but I could find a lot of problems with it at the time, although I didn't search for them. I mean, I would say, gee, that isn't the way it was. He didn't really do that. But at the end, I said, that, particularly after a month, when I thought about it, I said, it feels pretty good to me now. I mean, that movie seems a lot better now after a month than it did the minute I walked out of the theater. And so I appreciated the things they'd done to accentuate these experiences. What did you feel?
Well, I thought that, Apollo 13 is obviously really amazing. I mean, that is it looks so real. It really puts you there. But I think The Right Stuff, I thought that those, it portrayed, the saltiness of the early Mercury guys,
I thought that was pretty real, but accentuated sometimes. But now we remember it right. You and I remember that. If I said, let's have a quiz on the saltiness, give me some examples. The examples you remember would be enough to be pretty accurate. You wouldn't remember all of it.
That's right, I wouldn't, and I don't. And but there are some things that are common denominators. Like, for example, the re-entry in all those movies.
Yes.
They always portray it as being like really hot. When you're coming back into the Earth's atmosphere. What does that feel like?
Well, it doesn't feel hot at all inside because that's all taking place outside, and you're cold really before you come in. You've spent like a day getting it as cold as it can get because you want all the parts to be very cold, because you know that during the entry the heat won't transfer through the metal and heat you up, but after a while it'll start to slowly heat you in there, and you want to be as cool as you can. So when you looked out, you saw all this fire and you knew what was going on. Mostly it felt like, you know how when you're a kid and you're asleep in the backseat of your car and your dad's driving and he puts on the brakes and you feel yourself slowing down? It felt like that, except much more on the brakes, like 6 Gs, and for a longer, real shallow. That's one of the techniques you use in high Gs, is don't breathe very deeply, because then you don't have to raise your chest so much. And so I was doing that, and I thought, God, we're slowing down. Because, with all this acceleration that's like in the car, you're slowing down. Usually in a car, I could say to myself mentally, Dad's just about to stop, and then about that time he would stop and rock back, And so that was kind of going on in my head. I was integrating what it's called in math. I was integrating the acceleration. And if you integrate it, you finally get the change in velocity. So I said, and we're slowing down. Man, we got to be slow by now. And so I called over and said, how are we doing? The entry was 6 minutes long of the high G. Dick says, well, we've done it for about 3 minutes. And I thought, my God, you're kidding. We've been slowing down like this for 3 minutes. Impossible. How fast were we going? Well, we were going 25,000 miles an hour. Same speed as when we went out. And that's the fastest humans have ever been, ever. In fact, particles on Earth, well, particles do, but nothing on Earth goes 25,000 miles an hour. A rifle bullet goes 2,000 miles an hour, 3,000 at most. Here we were whistling along at 25,000. That's why it took so long to slow down. I began to realize how fast we really were going. And then finally, 3 minutes later, we started making noise. The thruster started making noise as we, had quit guiding command module aerodynamics, and we started guiding with the thrusters, and then we free fell, and the chutes came out and all that stuff. But it was just a ride for 6 minutes, and then it gets more. The exciting part isn't. It gets exciting when you want to make sure you capture into the atmosphere. If you read in that book, The Story of Entry, you'll see that Dick Gordon. We're coming in, and Dick or Pete, I can't remember. See, I got the transcripts out, and Dick is saying, "Hello, Earth," as he comes in out of the window, because you're in an attitude where you don't see the Earth. He comes in at a certain time, so he says something like, "Hello, Earth," and then in a little while, the 05G a light comes on, which means you're just about to get in the atmosphere, and that tells you that to brace yourself, because you're going to start building up G's, and you want to make sure that you get captured. And so in real life, Dick said, "Hold on to your hat-ass and overcoat, we're coming in." Now, I wrote that into the book, and my editor called me up and said, "Now look, if you want this to get in school libraries, you can't say that."
Right.
So I said, "Well, we want to be truthful." She says, "You're going to have to make a decision. If you want this to get where kids can be inspired, and I know you do, you got to change that a little bit. Librarians will toss the book out." So I said, I thought a while, and then I changed it to "hold on to your hat, ears, and overcoat." You'll see that in the book. But anyway, Dick says the other, and then he says, what you want to do is you want it's in automatic, but you're monitoring it all the time, because if it's not working, you better be ready to take over. You're only going to get one chance here. And you can't come in too steep, and you really can't come in too shallow, because if you come in and skip out, you're finished. You'll die of oxygen starvation before you ever get back, and you never get back. You don't have any propulsion system, so you've got to catch it. Remember in Apollo 13 how they kept adjusting it?
That's right, as the Earth got bigger and bigger out there. Yeah.
That's right. They had to make some thrusting motions at the last moment to trim it up, because they wanted to be right in the center. Well, what you want the command to do is you want this command to roll you lift vector down, so that it senses that you're in the middle or you're just a little bit out, and it wants you to come in a little steeper. That's what you want to happen. And so Dick says something, I can't even remember if I put it in this story, but he says, I don't think I put these words, he says something like, you better go lift vector down, you son of a bitch. He's talking to the computer. You get where you talk to these computers, like they're people.
Right.
And he says this, I'd forgotten all this, because I'd never gone back, but to do the book, I'd read it. And he says, "You better go lift vector down, you son of a bitch." And I know we're all saying, I think we all say, yeah, we're talking to this machine, because our life's hanging on the edge here, and it's got to work right, and you got to do it right. And so, incidentally, I think that's one of the reasons that you talked about the Mercury guys and Apollo guys and Gemini guys were a little more, whatever the word was you used. I think you had to be that way to do the job. Your neck was out much further than it is now. And nobody had done some of this stuff before. And I think you can't get regular people to do it. You have to get certain kinds of people that believe they can do this stuff, like it said in The Right Stuff. And they're kind of salty people, because that's part of putting your game face on. We cuss a lot more than I do around here, and that's because of that. You get in this mode of
being a pioneer. You're a pioneer.
Yeah, it's different. You can't do those things and be a person that's like the president or someone that gets up there and makes a wonderful speech, and that's not the same person. That person that does that is not the person that the statesman is not the pioneer. They're two different people. Now, a person can be a pioneer and learn to be a statesman, or can be a statesman and learn to be a pioneer. But when they do those things, they're different people. And Sam Houston's a good example. You read what he did, fighting Mexico, and he was a salty guy. He was, this guy fighting duels and all that other stuff. And then when he got to be a senator or whatever he was, he person then than I am now. Now I'm an artist that used to be an astronaut, and then I was an astronaut, didn't even think about being an artist, but those are different people. A lot of astronaut is in me, as you can tell, but still, a lot more of it. In those days, I was a lot different. I was more like that movie, that HBO thing showed. You have to be that kind of person. Other kinds of persons don't do those crazy things. It's part of the, you watch football players, and before the game they're out there hitting each other on the helmet hard enough to give me a headache, or knock my head off, and then they bump heads, and then they hit their shoulder pads, and they're jumping up and down and hitting each other and saying, we got to get out there and kick ass. They get this language too, same as we do.
Right.
But they don't put it on TV, because I hear them, I'm around them. Let's kill those son of a bitches, I'm gonna get that guy and I'm gonna kick him in the nut. You don't get on TV, but you have to. That's what they're getting ready to do, by the way. They're getting ready to go out there and knock each other around as hard as they can. You can't put on your astronaut game face and try to get in a football game. Well, first of all, they'd kill us. But
plus you're risking everything. The parachute mechanism I heard in the movie, the Tom Hanks thing was at risk. They never told you that, did they?
Oh, we knew, but we didn't ask. We knew our neck was out. Yeah, we didn't know that thing wasn't. When that lightning hit us, we knew. We said it to ourselves right at first. Wonder what it did to the apex cover. Wonder if it bothered those pyrotechnics under there. Wonder if some of the parachutes fired under there and they're just resting under there. Wonder if the apex cover is going to come off when we enter. And then Pete said, we all said, well, let's quit worrying about that one. We're going to have to give that to the ground. We've got to get this thing. See, we'd lost the alignment. The thing had lost the alignment. We've got to get us some star sightings and get an alignment. So let's get night adapted. I'll get out the star charts. You get down there on the thing. Pete, you go to this attitude. We're going to figure out how to do our part. We won't worry about that. We didn't worry about it. We started thinking about it on the way home, but we didn't. We couldn't do anything about that. We had to be ready to do our part. We had to be ready to fly it. We had to be ready to do our little part. You get in that team mode too. They're the team. They're doing all they can. We're just going to have to take the chance. We can't think about it. We've got to be as great as we can be. And if it works out, that's great. It's like Challenger.
Yeah.
There was nothing they could do. The greatest pilot in the world couldn't have done anymore. But they had to worry about being as great as they could be at that launch, and that's the rest was up to other people, and other people fell short. They never fell short. Other people did. Others of us failed to find the problem. We got complacent. They paid. It was bad.
Well, the shuttle, by the way, must have been slightly less exciting than landing on the moon. I'm just guessing, but Clint Eastwood is the Hollywood Reporter out here, movie trade magazine, says that Clint Eastwood is going to be making a movie about some veteran shuttle guys going back up into space and everything.
Good.
And he's going to call it Space Cowboys, I think it is.
Good.
And what kind of thing, what about the shuttle mission would make a good cinematic image, or what kinds of things would if you were making a movie about the shuttle, a return to the shuttle, what kind of things would you dramatize? Does it make for much of a dramatic or cinematic image? What kind of things would how would you handle it if you were doing such a movie about the space shuttle, given your experience up there?
Well, first of all, I'd take my for not being a movie maker. I don't really know, but I'll tell you what I think. A movie maker could, because I didn't think Apollo 13 could make a particularly good movie. It shows how dumb I am. But anyway, I would study Apollo 13, and I would say, now look, they didn't make a movie about Apollo 11. They made a movie about Apollo 13 because things went wrong, and it was a struggle to survive. Okay, so So if you're going to make a movie about the shuttle, you're going to start it out, you're going to get people in the audience liking all the crew members, or a few of them, and maybe even disliking a couple of them, because as you noticed, that was kind of a little bit of the 13 plot, and that's what's a plot in every. Yeah, it wasn't true in real life.
Right.
Nobody treated him like that or even thought about that, but it's good for movies. And in fact, that's what Fred Hayes thought was very negative about 13, was the fact they portrayed him there being negative towards Jack Schweikert when he never ever was.
Yeah, they argued on there, or
yeah, they had a confrontation. They didn't really do that. People work together. Your life depends on other people, and you know some guy can get the bumps, and they're going to have to replace him. It's not Jack Schweikert's fault. They're glad to have Jack Schweikert. Now they'd rather have Ken Mattingly because he was part of their crew, but everybody knows what the rules are. It's not like there was none of that. But it's good in movies. Okay, it's okay. So you'd have to have a little bit of that. Maybe did you see Saving Private Ryan?
I sure did, yeah.
Okay, I thought one of the more interesting characters was that guy that you didn't like that didn't want to go to war, and then when he got to war, he dragged him. He wanted to know if he ought to take his helmet or his gun or something.
That guy, yeah, I remember.
Okay, he was kind of a jerk, and they cart him off, and then he wants to let this German soldier go, and he was a good character in there, and then he hid. He was scared to death.
Yeah, he was kind of cowardly there.
Yeah, now I was glad they never made him a hero, but they sure made him realize that they were in a war, and it wasn't a bunch of nice guys getting together friendship-wise, because he shot that guy that he knew that it was a soldier he had voted to let him go. Remember that?
I remember, yes.
At the end. Well, I thought that was good. What he had done, what they showed us was, okay, in wartime, you can be the nicest guy in the world. Who cares on the other side? You're going to get shot. Your friends are going to get shot. You better decide that in war, you better kill those guys because they're after to kill you. Even though you're a nice guy, they're a nice guy. Their job is to kill you. You better get an attitude adjustment. When you come home, you can change. But I think then you could have a guy like that in the shuttle that for some reason doesn't get along with the others because he wants to do something that he'll find out later you can't be an astronaut and do. They use that in movies all the time.
Yeah.
But I thought that was very effective in Private Ryan because they didn't make him a hero later. A lot of times they'll make this guy the hero.
They'll start him out as somebody less than heroic and then, move him up to...
Yes, well, they moved him up just a little bit. Not too much. He still wasn't a particularly commendable character, but, that's why Steven Spielberg's a better director than some of us. So, anyway, they'd have to do things like that, and then something's got to go wrong with the shuttle, and they've got to be in situations where it's not normal, because normal shuttle stuff is interesting, but not as exciting as Apollo 13. So I don't know what they can do. Maybe, I don't know, they'd have to think of some things.
What's it like up there? Is it like a one-room thing, or, you're 59 days out there in a cramped kind of...
Well, our 59, we weren't cramped. We had the big Skylab. But one of the things I've never heard anybody come back from space, no matter how long, and say, well, we didn't have enough room. Because when you can float around and float near the ceiling and walls and all that stuff, then it always seems like you have enough room. I've never heard an astronaut say the spacecraft is too little, but I've heard lots of astronauts say, boy, we need better food. Or, I had trouble sleeping, and we got to invent a better sleeping bag, and we got to come up with ways where one guy can sleep and while the other one works, and he doesn't disturb him, and things like that, or we got to get bigger windows because we can't see out. You're in this, as Bill Anders on Apollo 8 said after he'd gone to the moon, the first guys had gone to the moon, he said, it's like going through Yellowstone Park in a tank and looking out the little windows and trying to see Yellowstone. You can hardly see it. So people complain about those kinds of things, but the littleness of the areas of the volume is not something that people complain about the fact that it's kind of messy to live up there for pooping and urinating, and it's like not as much fun as on Earth, but it's okay. I think I've got to go.
Okay.
We've been